Kia ora e te whānau. Welcome to this episode of Light Lunch. I'm Hannah, your host for today, and I've got the wonderful Ralph and Kristine. I will let Ralph introduce himself.
Cool. Afternoon, everyone. It is afternoon now. So my name is Ralph Titmuss. I'm currently working in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So I'm overseeing a number of quite major diplomatic construction properties projects overseas. So yeah, definitely keeping me busy at some strange hours of the night, but it's a pretty cool role.
And you're also a member of our Young Professional Advisors.
Yep, have been for, I think, coming on 6 years now.
I was going to say,
yeah.
You're about to be kicked off.
Well, I think it's 35 in 2 years, so I've still got a little bit of time, thank you. No, it's been pretty cool being involved with the NZIV for the last few years, and also being part of the Central Region Committee as well.
Yes.
Helping out with a few things here and there, so no, it's a good thing to be involved with.
Yeah, we appreciate it. And Kristine.
I'm Kristine Agustin. I'm currently an architectural designer / graduate at Becca, but I'm also doing my part-time and 4th year architecture at Victoria, and I'm also co-president of Studio.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for taking time out of your day today. So the format is, as we usually do, 3 things keeping you awake at night, and then 3 personal light flow quick fire questions at the end. So let's get stuck in. Kristine, tell me your first thing that is keeping you awake at night.
I think one of my first things is the attraction to the construction industry from like students coming out from high school.
Yeah.
Just because I'm a student and freshly off making that decision, there's definitely still that stigma of having to go into university specifically. Obviously, architecture and engineering go specifically into the STEM, but things like your apprenticeships and stuff, I don't think it's praised as much yet as it should be. But yeah, I just know quite a few people coming out of high school now. They still feel that pressure when
Yes.
I don't think it's necessary in New Zealand anymore.
Yeah.
Specifically, like with the support of the construction industry.
Yeah, I think it's a hard one, isn't it? Because I remember being back at school and the careers advisor kind of that whole conversation of, well, what do you like doing? I mean, it's a hard, because it's a big decision straight off the bat.
Yes, and one of their questions is actually, what are you thinking of taking at uni? So it's already naturally, it's just built in at this point and what we think about.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a tough one to, well, because they're kids, right? You're still young. I was 17.
I mean, maybe you have to start moving away from, do we have to know exactly what we're doing with our life at age 18, you know? When I came from the UK to New Zealand, I was basically tossing up between law and construction, going to architecture, and eventually I decided to go for architecture primarily because I walked past a law textbook shop in London one day and went, that looks horrific. Textbooks were like that big, and I just went, oh, I like reading, but not that much.
Right, note to viewers.
I mean, architecture,
lots of reading.
Yeah, lots of reading. My wife will love that. I mean, architecture is obviously pretty intense in that, so probably I didn't really save myself much there.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
Well, I mean, I think New Zealand's obviously coming on some pretty big leaps and bounds in the last few years in terms of its trades program. But yeah, certainly there is obviously that stigma, are you going to university, or are you going to go work on a construction site or do another, a trade job, which is ridiculous because realistically you can have 1,000 architects in the room, or 1,000 engineers, but ultimately the people that we need in the industry are the people actually building the things they're designing.
Yeah.
And it's got to be
needs to be more support to tell people what it is needed out there. And what is the first thing keeping you up at night despite having a 2-month-old child?
Yeah, that's the main thing. Well, I was reflecting on this, and I think it might be something that I'll try not to run past 15 minutes because I've got some big questions. I was having a lunch catch up with an old boss of mine a week or 2 ago. We like to sort of bounce ideas off each other whenever we catch up, and we were talking about, are we now over relying on BIM and building information information modeling and that process, taking the wrong lessons from it? Are we trying to perfect construction, which to myself, it's an inherently imperfect discipline. You're never going to be able to do it correctly whilst there's humans involved. You know, the only time you can do it if it's a completely new build site, it's all generated by AI, it's all prefab in a factory, a bunch of drones come and clip it together and you turn it on and that's done. But here we're talking through this example of a recent project where you get on site and there was a clash between some civils going in the ground and some concrete structure in the ground next to it. And it's 20-30 grand to fix it, to redirect the services, rebox the framing for the pour. The lesson taken from it was, we need to do more clash detection with our bid, and so let's add an additional 2 to 3 months of clash detection at the end of each design phase in order to catch these things, right? And you go, okay, well that makes sense. You don't want to have too many of these issues, but then you go, well, in the 2, 3, 4 months of extra design time that we've taken to do that work, to avoid a small clash on site, is that actually an overreaction? Have we actually just built in even more risk, especially with some of the market forces coming into construction currently with the rise of materials? Where are we shifting the risk from? We're taking it from the design team, and suddenly we're saying, oh, well, you've got to wait 4 months before you start the project. Have fun with the escalation. Have fun with who knows what's happening with the material.
God, you're creating a monster out of this.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. We've only got a few minutes.
I'm going to start, invite people on to say it can be positive, it can be light and fun.
I mean, it is fun. I think.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, it's a fun problem to solve, right?
Yeah, I mean, if your brain is that way.
Well, I was thinking actually, I was reading your bio, Kristine. Obviously, you still finishing up your masters. I'm kind of interested because for me, the reliance on BIM is skewing, I think, some of the industry training around architects and engineers away from like the hand-drawn manual design that I think is so integral to the industry. So I'm curious to see, is that something you're finding in university currently?
It's definitely something that they're introducing, and the fact that it's still introduction, I probably learned more at my work in terms of like BIM stuff. At uni, the drawings are very creative and marginally speculative over the technical like orthographic drawings in terms of like teaching us how to do this properly or like proper dimensioning. So maybe it's actually quite blurry on where as a student I should be sitting in terms of my skill set, whether I should be, technically be at your stage of how to use BIM, or I should be a drawing expert. But we're definitely in the middle.
Be both.
Yeah.
Be both.
Well, I think that's for me. For me, the issue is that we've seen BIM as the solution to issues of productivity, with going over budget, with going over time, saying, oh, well, if we design more with BIM, if we make sure we design all the risk out, we have so many workshops, so many clash detection. But for me, it still comes down to you need to be on site, working through project issues at the time, as opposed to just relying on, oh, well, there's an issue here. Okay, we'll go back, have a meeting about it. Then we'll sketch something up, and then we'll send that to the engineer, and they'll have a meeting, and then we'll have a challenge team meeting internally, then we'll present it to the design team meeting, then that'll get approved by the client, and then we'll have a CAN for that, and a CI, and then a month later, instead of just someone on the site going, "Go do that."
Yeah, this is a bigger than 15 minute.
It's a bigger than 15-minute conversation.
This is going to keep you up all night. Kristine, your second point.
It kind of rolls onto skill set. In architecture specifically, I think there's some sort of transparency that's it's not quite transparent to see what we actually have to do in the industry. Unlike the engineering degree, which we are very different to, they have a certain amount of hours they need to complete.
Right.
So for me, as a very practical person, and I learn faster as I do it, I think that's quite crucial. So things like site visits that I have never seen in my bachelor's kind of I thought was necessary and I thought would happen going into the degree. But I guess that's what the outside organizations are for. But I think that's something that I would ideally expect from a university, for a school of architecture.
laid out, you know, in
Yeah.
order to
Yeah.
get here or gain this,
Yeah.
do this.
It's kind of interesting because you've got an architectural degree which is not really teaching the practical realities of being an architectural graduate, but then twinning that on the other side with a trades program which is teaching apprentices the practical realities of being on a construction site. So then you have, almost in my mind, an issue. You have young architectural graduates coming into the foreground, but they're basically relying on the industry to suddenly teach them and get them up in a really, really advanced learning curve to the ability where they can actually walk onto a site and say that is the incorrect way to build that detail because X, Y, Z. Yeah, I think it's.
I mean, it's very much what you make it, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, how much effort you put in, you know, being a part of something like New Zealand Institute of Building, knowing the people, what's out there, putting your best foot forward. isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's
I mean,
definitely a
that's-
proactive thing. For me, I definitely experienced those things because I looked for those things.
Yes,
But in terms of like, yeah, I definitely know some of my friends who went into internships and were like, it's nothing what I expected. And I don't
And
know
it's a
if I
scary-
good or
yeah,
bad thing.
yeah.
Yeah,
yeah, I guess it depends, yeah. Cool, all right, sorry, we've got to move along.
let's do it. This is number
Third,
third.
are you third?
Second,
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 sorry,
okay, yeah,
second.
we'll try and get through it. So this is kind of continuing on the skill set issue that we were talking around. I think we've removed the authority and the decision-making power from people on site and the actual engineers and architects at the time. And I think that comes down for me as to how a client intends to run a project. So, you know, acting as a client now, I see there's two broad categories of client. There's the hands-off client, and then there's the hands-on client.
Yeah.
And I think at the moment, there's some that are almost in the middle, and they don't have the technical expertise to be able to advise on site and say that is wrong, that is right. But they don't have the trust in their consultant team to delegate to them.
Yeah.
And so that's for me an issue around the productivity in the industry. You have minor issues which get blown up into design by committee. Whereas in fact, it should just be the expert architect, the expert engineer, the expert site manager saying, that's the right way to do it. And the client either being, cool, you're the expert, I'm paying you for that job.
Yeah, yeah.
Or, oh, I'm also an expert, I disagree and here's why.
Mhm.
But I think at the moment, there's
Too many,
not enough trust in people who think they don't know, people who don't know what they're doing, taking too long to design.
yeah, that is a tough one. Too many chefs in the kitchen.
Yeah, because I mean, you go back 100 years, I mean, obviously 100 years probably is going to be a bunch of old white guys with grey hair standing around site pointing at what's going to happen. You know, thankfully that's changed. But ultimately the principle of there being an expert able to give a decision at the time and not feel like they've got to second guess themselves 5 different ways to make sure that it's the perfect solution. This is the thing that construction's imperfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's such a good point.
The decision that keeps things going is better than a decision that is
Yeah.
8 months late.
And having only a select few making these calls, these experts, as you say, otherwise everyone's got a opinion. Yeah. Third point.
Third point. This one's actually quite positive.
Oh, yay.
Positive and negative. In terms of mental health and not just the industry, but as a student of the toxic culture of architecture, obviously. I do find that everyone is very stressed at uni, and it definitely takes a toll on a significant amount of students. But from where I work, at least, I've seen that you can tell nowadays, since it's a bigger discussion, companies care, and that they're really taking the time to adapt to how, when people voice out what they need, because not only are you working for a company, but they also need you. So they're really valuing that nowadays, which I
So
really,
important.
which is really good.
When it also makes you be able to speak out,
Yeah,
right? When
yeah.
you are having a tough time. And I imagine with you managing,
Yeah,
juggling
yeah,
work and studying, that it's crucial to both aspects
Yeah.
that you be at the top of your game, and that's
Yeah.
just not
Yeah.
possible for anyone
yeah.
if you can't be honest about how it's all
Yeah,
going.
when you need to step back and stuff, it was
Yeah.
definitely, harder in I don't know, definitely different from when my parents talk about it. I'm just like, oh,
Yeah,
some days I just call it like, right, today, like I'm just ending it today.
Yep.
Like
yeah, today's not
Yeah.
a good day to, yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's
Yeah, I think it's something that I noticed when I was sort of coming up through project management in Wellington. There was a probably sort of like 2017, 2018, 2019, there was a real big push, and you could really tell that certainly main contractors made a huge effort around mental health and awareness, which is awesome to see. But it has really started now to come through with the professional services firms. So I mean, I grew up in England with a whole family's in construction, a huge construction firm over there, and I can guarantee if anyone even ever said, "Oh, I feel a bit down today," there would be zero tolerance around that on the construction side of the time.
Yeah.
And yeah, you think about how many issues that's caused that thankfully is starting to be rectified.
absolutely, so important. Now, I'm sorry, we're bang on time, so we're gonna have to rush
No,
through
that's
this
all
next
good.
bit. So we're gonna move on to the quick fire, if that's right with you. Ralph will put your third point in our follow-up email.
That's all good. It was a really fun thing
Send that.
about unfavorable insurance conditions.
Oh,
but,
there we go,
yeah,
all
I mean,
right. Bring that along. Kristine, what are you reading, listening, or watching at the moment?
I'm not reading anything, but I do, when I do, it's a lot of fiction books. I just quite like getting away from
Absolutely.
practical stuff.
Yeah. How about yourself, Ralph?
I'm currently reading Mythos by Stephen Fry, which is an overview of the Greek pantheon and the Greek myths and legends that led to the Republic.
Of course you are. I can see Ralph reading that. Amazing.
Yeah, it's from the library. Who knew library, 3 books.
Good
yeah,
on
I
you.
recommend it. To use the library, it's pretty cool.
And this next question is sort of a follow-up from your third point, Kristine. What is something you do to help with your mental health well-being?
When I have the time, I definitely cook for myself
Good on you.
and my friends. It's just, but when I say cook, it's like proper like entree main dessert. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah,
Oh,
because
let's hang out with you.
Yeah, dinner party.
especially like being in 4th year now, and I'm not in that, and I
Yeah.
learn, so it's.
You can,
I'm
you
over
have the
yeah.
freedom to do
Yeah,
a little bit more.
the
Okay,
2
love
minute
that.
notes, Yeah.
Amazing. How about yourself, Ralph?
Well, a little bit difficult with a 10-month-old sometimes, but my wife and I have got a pretty good little sharing routine on which nights we get.
Cool.
But for me, it's my music. So I'm still playing in my jazz band every week. Do a lot of sports still, tennis and frisbee, and then board games with friends. Really,
Cool.
yeah, just trying to
Love
take
that.
that break.
Yeah.
Trying as much as possible to
Absolutely.
get home at 5 and yeah,
Switch off and dead brain on.
Yeah.
And what is your motto?
This is an interesting one. I would say probably expect nothing, appreciate everything. Actually, I quite literally have it tattooed on me.
Good on you.
Yeah, I
So
try.
you really
I
believe in that.
really,
Yeah.
yeah, I try not to believe that anything like owes me anything, lets me
Yeah.
appreciate everything that comes my way.
That's
Hmm.
awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. Ralph, what's your
Uh,
tattoo say?
I don't have any tattoos. No, I've been thinking about it. It's not fun. For me, I was kind of reflecting on how I guess I look at leadership, and so I settled on listen, then decide. So yeah, listen to the experts in the room, and then
Yeah.
be confident based on that to make a call.
Amazing. All right. Final piece of advice for next generation.
I say just enjoy it. I think you always forget how young you are, and you're always like, oh my god, I messed up. But it's like it's only at
Yeah.
that point in time.
Yeah,
That's
right.
moment in time.
you're gonna mess up.
And
Uh,
have
don't.
we heard that before? Win the lotto?
Yeah, with the lotto, yeah, do that. That helps. Yeah, I'm still working on that.
Yeah.
For me, don't settle. There is a huge amount of good and bad in the industry. You find yourself somewhere that is bad, move. Find somewhere better. Do not settle for anything other than your happiness.
Great advice. Hey, thank you guys so much for joining us. Sorry, we did run a bit over our time, but great conversations. Just
Now we can
needed
talk about
to
children.
happen. Yeah.
Thank you.
Join us next time. In 2 weeks' time, we'll have Natasha Posanevsky and a special guest. Ooh, I don't know who that is. We'll leave that to Chloe to figure out. But yeah, and we'll send a follow-up email, and we'll put Ralph's third point in there. Yeah, enjoy the rest of your day. Ka kite.